this year. Pin
No?
drop. The pin drop.
Have you got a lot of boys?
Yeah, and I got a lot, it's lively, everybody, boys and girls.
Yeah.
Mine's pretty balanced, some classes.
Is it?
Mine's pretty balanced, but it's just full on energy.
Yeah, I was trying to, somebody said they had like all these like
Brenda Bergen has
17 boys or some
Yeah.
huge number of boys and just a few girls, and it's just wild.
It's just the way the configurations go sometimes. Thank you so much.
So GP, do you want the pictures?
Yeah.
Bill?
Oh, I got those on my thing, but I'll take them here. Yeah, I got them both, but unless someone else needs them. I just needed this last one, thank you. I got those. Like three if they want.
Anybody else?
You guys ready to roll?
Yeah, roll it.
Patron? Hey, I'd like to call this regular meeting of council to order. First item on our agenda is public input period. If there's anyone that wishes to address council, please come forward, state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes of our time. Don't be shy. It's all good.
I'll go first, sure.
I get 10 minutes.
Yeah, you're a delegation.
All right, so, Fletcher Quinn, 2115 Queen Street, and I'm just wondering exactly why the city contacted the person who I have a lease agreement with in advance of determining whether or not there was an issue with my behavior on the property.
Is that it? So what I'll say is that I think there's been some email correspondence that you're aware of, and I think that we'll leave it there, and thank
Okay,
you. It's
then.
public input period. This is not debate time. Thank you.
Well, it's not debate time, sir.
No.
I'm afraid that if you're going to interfere with my private business dealings with an organization, then having prompt and due diligent communication with me would probably be well recommended. And I'll address this maybe to council since you seem to not want to participate in the conversation.
This is public input period.
Background?
This is public input period, and I think if we want to, we can maybe go later on into in-camera, because there is some in-camera issues here.
I can't go to
But this
camera.
this is a public input period, and if
Okay.
you want to bring something to our attention, that's the purpose of it, so.
Okay, then I have a complaint with Tracy Butler about her decision to inform the bank that I had broken some rules or regulations without stating what those are, without having feedback from a liquor inspector as to what those are, and with regards to any sort of due process in this matter. Can you speak to that?
No, we can't, but thank you very much for the input, and we will.
This place is a joke. See ya.
Anyone else that wishes to address council at public input period? It's really not that difficult. No? Seeing none? Sure?
I think I'm on the next item.
Okay, public presentation period? Okay. So, with no more public input, then we're moving right along to the public representation period. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to bylaw 2578, that's Monte Cristo Street Road Closure bylaw? Please come ahead, and your name and your address would be great, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Esme Myers. I am the owner of 2306 2nd Avenue, for which this is bylaw, and I'm applying to purchase a small portion of the road allowance beside me. And this will allow me to maintain my current footprint, where that little house is being, and comply with city regulations when I go to rebuild. So for this, I'm asking council for their support. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anyone else that wishes to speak to bylaw 2578? For a second time, is there anyone else that wishes to speak to bylaw 2578? And for a third time, is there anyone else that wishes to speak to bylaw 2578? Seeing none, thank you very much. Public representation period is closed. Thank you. Moving right along, a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Spearn, seconded by Blumey. Discussion on the agenda. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. Motion to adopt the minutes of October 14th, 2014. Is there a mover? Seconded, moved Fisher, seconded by Moore. Just on those minutes, if anybody has any, I do. In my members' reports, it says the RMI has, it should say the RMI has been capped and the program is good to 2016 rather than whatever it says in there. I don't have the whole thing. And The sewer river crossing issue has an agreement, not the sewer whatever it says agreement is done or whatever. Okay? Okay, with those amendments, all in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Delegation from the Heritage Committee, Ms. Drysdale, please come forward, and you have our ears.
I thought you were gonna give me the time.
Yeah.
No, I'll cut you off when I have
Sometimes
to.
you don't.
Well, it's the very end of October, and one thing that struck me was that, oh my gosh, times are changing. This is the last time that the first and the last time that I can come to this council. So I just wanted to personally and face-to-face thank all the members of this Rossland Council for the support that they have given to the endeavors of the Heritage Commission over the past 3 years. And I'd also just like to just take a few brief moments to just summarize the activities and accomplishments that we have had as a Heritage Commission. So first of all, I'd like to just make a few comments about being a commission, the Heritage Commission. And I think it's really a good idea that Rossland has got a Heritage Commission because we only make recommendations. And you see them in the minutes that you look at for discussion or for adoption or whatever. But the decisions are made by council, and that says to anybody that's interested, it really isn't the Heritage Commission making that motion for that move. It really is the community of Rossland. So the support of council behind a commission, I think, is a really important one, and it has certainly had benefits. We're not a not-for-profit, and we're not a society. We are a commission of council, and I think that's good. The second thing about the commission being a good thing is that in the terms of reference, it has, as a non-voting member of the commission, a representative of council. So when our recommendations come before council, it's on paper, of course, with the minutes, but we have somebody there that can provide the necessary background for discussion if it's necessary, and I think that's a really good thing, too. Heritage commissions were set up by provincial legislation somewhere around 2000, and the legislation provincially enables municipal councils and regional districts to set up a heritage commission. And the purpose really behind it all was to provide council with another planning tool for land-based decisions. So that if a proposal for instance, a demolition comes before council, having a commission which produces for council's adoption the registry, it actually red flags those properties, be it a site or a building, and not that it's going to change anything necessarily, but it just red flags it, and it says to council, no, this building is a little special, let's just give it its due attention. So all of those things are part of having a commission to council, which I think is really good. So we take a look at the mandate, and of course I know you've all studied our mandate tremendously, but basically it boils down to what that provincial legislation was all about. It's the identification of heritage buildings and sites on a value base. It's not just old. They have to be valued to get the register. And then it moves on from there to conservation and preservation. Well, conservation and preservation are just such huge, costly endeavors. But that is part of the mandate. But what I wanted to point out to you that you won't see in the terms of reference, because I just checked, was at our first meeting 5.5 years ago, we looked at that mandate, we looked at what sort of we hope to accomplish, and we added 2 goals. And we've been operating with those 2 other goals for our whole 5.5 years, and one of them was to create public awareness. And the second one was to work cooperatively, regionally and provincially with all groups with interests in heritage, and that includes the dwindling staff at the provincial level and so on. So that has been the mandate that we have operated under. The Commission will be making a budget presentation to meet your deadline. I think it's the 31st. But I wanted just to, as far as context, to say that it will probably what has become a traditional amount of $5,500 for the Heritage Commission. And then what I'd just like to say is that over the past years, with that money, but with volunteer time and skills, with grants, with partnerships, we have completed the Columbia Cemetery Restoration Project, 4 years, $40,000 there, city crew. We produced the most definitive database that we could for those Rosslanders buried in the cemetery, and it's on the city website. We have produced the required documentation to substantiate the Heritage Registry. That's those statements of significance, which we're not quite finished yet. They take a while. But we're working on and adding histories to the places that are on the Heritage Registry. You're probably aware of the signage on the Louis Joe Trail, the Historic Creek Valley signage, the Columbia Cemetery signage, the historic building plaques that are on the buildings in the downtown. 2 publications, Heritage Homes and the Cemetery, Heritage Week events, an annual event throughout British Columbia, displays, and we have definitely re-established a reputation provincially for respecting our heritage and working with it. So, value for money. So, our endeavors, of course, are going to continue. This council is going on to other things in other ways. But just 2 things I wanted to let you know about. You have been hearing the Commission attaching to its budget submissions marketing. We have sort of outpaced the city time that is available on the website. We've got things ready to go up, but, just finding a time. So we're going to create a Heritage Rossland website, which of course would be linked to the city, and it will be mostly informative, but it will be all of those things that we have learned and know about, and pictures and so on. And I think we can do that within the money that we have in this year's budget. And the second thing is that we are going to be hosting the 2015 Heritage BC Conference here in Rossland, October the 1st and October 2nd of this coming year. And it was an invitation, actually, from Heritage BC. The provincial government, with its branches and staff and devolution of heritage to the communities, presents problems. We all know about devolution. But Heritage BC has become the go-to provincial umbrella group, and that will be the convention that we will be hosting. And today I spent the day touring, the executive director and her husband, around Rossland, visiting some of our sites, looking at our gorgeous Main Street, looking at the facilities that we have for a conference, and it's rather exciting. Rossland is a really easy community to sell, and our heritage, which is such a big part of the visual part of our community, is, I think, a very important part of that, as well as for Rossland citizens. It just creates that sense of pride and identity within our community. So again, I just want to thank Council for the support that they have shown for our endeavors over the past 3 years.
Thanks very much, Jackie. Any questions of Jackie? Councillor Moore.
Yeah, just a couple, Jackie, thank you very much, that was very informative. As to the upcoming conference, it's a provincial conference, right? And about how many people are anticipated?
Well, it would be around 100.
Okay, good. And how many days will it
We
be?
are going to be dealing with the fact that it's in the interior. Will people from the coast travel up where the conference have been in the past? So on the discussion table, I'm going to be meeting with the Columbia Basin Trust next week to find ways in which we can not only build capacity within the Columbia Basin Trust area, but also major sponsorship. But, you know, I mean, we got to start, and certainly sponsorships are a way that we can help fund the conference. The Heritage BC organization offers particular supports and money, and then we've got the workshop people. So we've just begun those discussions, but I'm fully confident that, you know, with the support of the city, for instance, in terms of the use of the Miners Hall, you know, is a real focal point for activities. We were out to the museum today. We've got the space. The accommodation right now is sounding terribly expensive. So that also has to be looked at. But those are just details. I will be the chair of the local committee, and there's a provincial committee in terms of workshops and formats. So I find it very exciting.
Yeah, it is very exciting, it's great, thank you for making that happen. My other question was about the website that you're going to do. So will you take the content that's currently on the city website and transfer it to this new website? And will that website then be maintained by someone other than a city staff person?
The content on the city website is right now the database for the Columbia Cemetery. But to anybody but an expert browser, it is not a searchable document. So, you know, on your own website, you make it a searchable document, and then you can give it back to the city or just simply link to the city.
Mhm.
The Heritage Registry, which is on the city website, is bits and pieces.
Okay, so it needs some...
And we've got the data and the skill to, the gal that, and the Heritage Home booklet, for instance, was going to be delivered to the city in an electronic format. But it was so unwieldy that it wasn't of much use. So what Joanne Drystick did was format that so that it could be scanned as a magazine or whatever, and then give it to the city to put on. But perhaps the city, you know, I've heard comments about the city website is quite cumbersome. You know, this is also the potential of a link that can unencumber everything that's going on. Like, I mean, I think the city website is discussions for council. In our case, we had more information than there was time available to work with. So through volunteer help and a small design cost, we're going to come up with something that is going to be available to everybody and meet the...
And there won't be a city staff person that's maintaining that website then, or there will be?
Well, of course, it could be, but I suggest that, you know, either the management, and we're meeting tomorrow for more on this,
Okay,
but
all right.
the options are to have the commission be the administrator, to pay an administration fee for maybe looking at that website every 6 months to update it, because it will be more, at this point, an information place to go to, searchable. It won't be something that's advertising or needing, weekly updates and so on. That's where the thinking is at this time, Kathy.
That's good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Blooming?
Thank you for your presentation. The Heritage BC group that, the convention that'll be happening in October, is that the same organization that puts out, it's a publication it's kind of magazine-like, and it might even be the same title, but I'm
Heritage
not entirely-
BC.
Is it the same
Yep.
title? Is it the same group also?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Okay, and, also, I just was wondering from your point of view as, someone who's worked on a commission, I've had the question posed to me fairly recently as to the differences between task force and commission, and I believe I know the answer, but I'd be very interested to know from your point of view as working on a commission, is it beyond just sort of a function of just formality, sort of that formal relationship that's long-lasting with the city? Is that essentially the difference, or what would you say?
Well, I think council has got a design review panel, right? They've got affiliations, they've got 2 commissions that I'm aware of. You can create standing task forces of a certain duration. Council has a lot of options. What the commission does, that's all I can really speak of, and I think that relationship has got one downside to it, which we're also exploring. We are not a not-for-profit organization, so along comes the community initiative grants, and we are not eligible to apply for those funds. Now, the Regional District of Central Kootenai have changed their rules, and their heritage organizations can apply for community initiatives. So I pursued it with John McLean at our regional district, and he said that this was about a year ago, and of course Columbia Basin Trust doesn't have a problem with it, but the decision for community initiative funds used to rely with the regional district, and then they dispersed it, and so what happens at Rossland, you get oversubscribed and you divvy out the money. I don't know whether that's a good way to go, but in the past we have submitted a community initiatives grant through the museum, and that went forward, and then we also, through Tourism Rossland, submitted a grant. The Louis Joe Trail was a community initiatives grant, and the Tourism Rossland attached their name to it as a not-for-profit. But we were the contact, and we did all of the work and the design and that kind of thing. So, I would like to go to the regional district and say, really, every community should have a commission that reflects their council, their OCP up front. But just as an aside, this is not for news, is it, Sarah? But I approached Trail, and I said, to their president of their historical society, and I said, if you were a commission, then you would have that upfront endorsation of the value of heritage to the community as spoken by your council. Well, their relationship has always worked very well the way it is. But the problem with not-for-profits and not commissions is that council can change, right? And then it's water under the bridge. So the commission, in the long run, I really feel is the right structure. And we just may be pursuing this a bit more at this Heritage BC conference, because you've got museums, historical organizations, heritage, which people confuse with history, although they're very closely related. And maybe if you, like for instance, at the regional district, we had a fellow that was the regional director from Greenwood, hot to trot on history and heritage in his community. And when you go through Greenwood, that they don't have the resources and they've got a lot of heritage. So his idea was the regional district can create a heritage commission. And my, talking to him, I was excited to find his interest, but I said, you know, if you want a regional commission, you've got to have a designated person from each community who has the support to speak for the council before you can even think about. Well, he thought, no, they could go ahead. So $20,000 later, there was a feasibility study on creating a regional district heritage commission, which sits on the shelf. You know, heritage can't be just in the hands of staff. It's got to be community driven and supported. So that's just a little bit of background.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Councilor Spear,
Yeah.
ask a question.
Thank you, Jackie, for the presentation. Great information also. So my question just around the conference, because that means it's only a year away, your conference, right? That's not very long. So what are you relying on for, do you have a committee within the Heritage Group, or what kind of people are you relying on to pull that conference off?
Well, today's meeting with the executive director helped to spell out areas of responsibility and organization. So there is a provincial planning committee, and they haven't accumulated the profile of the people who attended this year's conference, or the surveys, or the feedback, all of which is important in planning, right? I know what would be most helpful to small communities like ourselves, you know, without finances and staff. And this is where I'm thinking of the Columbia Basin Trust, you know, for us, for everybody. So those things are, then we would have a local committee, and then the responsibilities would be spelled out. So we're just in the discussion stage. I have every confidence that this is the kind of thing that we can do very well and leave a lot of satisfied people coming to our community. You know, you can't have a conference. I guess ultimately we could have a conference designed for Revelstoke is identical to Rossland, right? Nelson has had a commission, and Grand Forks, Greenwood. I've been talking to someone in Cranbrook. They want to set up a heritage commission. So, you know, everybody's at different stages. We have so much experience, you know, in terms of design guidelines in the downtown, the heritage registry, the documentation for it, and so the cemetery restoration. But are those going to be the kinds of topics that are interesting to Nanaimo, who has a full-time heritage planner on their city staff? You know, so what you have to do when you set up a conference, if you want the attendance, is match it with what people will come. The other thing, too, is that we're looking at is subsidies for travel. You know, what can you do to encourage people to attend besides your program format? So these are all discussions at this point.
Thank you. Good luck.
That's good. Thank you very much, Jackie.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Best
For your hard work.
Moving right along, item 8A, request for council
Which one is
decision.
it now?
8A?
Yeah, I
You
didn't
got,
have
so
mine.
that's on
This one?
Yeah. 8A is a request for council decision regarding the development permit application by Sourdough Alley. Is there a motion that council approve option 2 on the condition that the owner agree to make some improvements to the Washington Street facade to be further approved by the design review panel and council? Is there a mover to that? Moved by Fisher, seconded by Thatcher. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
I have a question.
Okay.
Do we have any idea what sort of improvements they're looking to make to that Washington side, or any ideas about that?
The, Jackie just ran away, but
Yeah.
it might not have been appropriate, but some of the, I don't know how to explain it, the window framing and stuff like that
Yeah.
can be adjusted without major rentals or whatever, just to kind of break up the windows, because it looks like 1970s going into,
Okay.
Walmart, I guess, I don't know. But anyway, there is some minor things that can be done without a lot of cost, just to make that facade look a little better. So I think they would have to, the option would be that the Sourdough Alley, work with the design review to make some improvements to that, and that would come to council.
And this concept has been floated with the owner.
Yeah. Okay, on that motion, all in favor?
This is the new design in here,
Well,
or suggested?
That's the only thing.
anyway, there's, option 2 is the window.
Windows in the back.
You've got to keep going, you'll see the windows.
Is that option 4 there?
Keep going, keep going.
Keep going. Keep going.
There, right there.
Yes, yeah.
So
Yep.
you see, it's just to break up the windows,
Yeah.
so that
Oh,
instead
yeah,
of like they're
that's
solid
better.
panes, they look like either they're
Yeah.
4 glasses or, right?
Yeah, those are traditional looking windows.
Yeah, okay, so on the motion, all in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. I motion that, this is 8B now, everybody got that? Motion that council direct staff to not seek substitute service for the 2 properties, roll numbers you have in front of you, sold at the tax sale. Is there a mover to that? Moved by,
Sorry.
I thought I was just gonna say moved
Yeah.
by Anuemo. Moved by Spearn,
Okay,
seconded by
sorry.
Fisher, thank you. This is, was that an addition? Because that was an addition.
No, well, we got it late, but we got it.
So that's on these papers?
Pardon? Yes.
What's the,
So the byline is,
Tax sale.
tax sale substitute service order is,
Mm-hmm.
just a second, so you got it?
I got it.
Okay.
I just had one question. So if we let it stay and do nothing with it until after the redemption period is over, which is 1 year, right? Then we could sell it and not have any ramifications, is that right?
That's right, but if
Okay.
he does come back within that time, he could come, go to the court and say if we didn't give the appropriate
Right.
notification, but he would still have to pay that.
Right.
The tax.
the village
Okay.
tax.
That's good, thanks.
I did have one question through to you to staff regarding, CRA has a $200,000, claim on the property. If we take the property, right, are we liable for that
I'm not sure. I didn't.
$200,000? I mean, it's registered on the property, right?
Go ahead, Trish.
Worship, no, we're not.
Okay, anyway, let's get a motion first on
I
this.
did, I made the
did-
motion.
Did we, I didn't get the second. did
Yeah,
we?
oh, I.
Did you get it, Cynthia? Okay, great, sorry.
That's why I was speaking to you.
Okay, well, no, I'm
Okay, no problem.
not always awake. Anyway, is there any more, discussion on that? Okay, seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Opposed, the motion's carried. And, my apologies, Councilor. Request for council decision, on the Golden Bear Child Care Center. The motion that council directs staff to pay out the MFA lease and all associated actions required, and further, the council directs staff to fund the Golden Bear Child Care lease payout from early debt repayment reserve and amend the 14-18 financial plan. Is there a mover to that?
I'll move it.
Thank you, moved by Fisher, seconded by Spear. Discussion, Council Fisher.
I would just look, in reading the, are we looking at a budget surplus? That was a question through to you staff, because that's in the
Is there-
document somewhere, other than the early payout, early debt repayment. There's also, is there a surplus in the budget that's not from the early debt repayment?
It's reserves.
From reserves, no, I know. Is that what we're saying, there's a surplus?
There's a reserve fund.
There's a reserve fund.
No, let me just read the line. The funding for this payment could be made from surplus or the early debt repayment reserve. Is there a surplus? Are we projecting a surplus?
At this time, there could possibly be a surplus. But we're not at the end of the year yet. Hard to find one, that's why we're doing it from reserve.
Okay.
And then, yes,
Yeah,
please.
a couple things. One thing I would have liked to have seen is what's the advantage of paying it off versus continuing with a 1.75 loan for 5 years? And if we pay it off now, we've taken that $36,000, we no longer have the use of it if we wanted to, if there was something else we wanted to do with it. So
Is that,
what's our advantage?
is
What's
that
our
not
advantage?
answered in the report? Is that not the MFA that wishes us to get out of that?
No, they offered us
Short-term loan.
the options. They said we could have a short-term, loan. They're changing the
Borrowing-
structure.
Yeah.
Borrowing rate versus
Go ahead.
you're gonna end up paying more for the short-term loan than you are if we pay it out, right, over the long 5 years.
Well, you look at your
Small
opportunity cost.
percentages, but
Yeah, I mean, if the interest rate's 1.75, right, and if we've got that $36,000 that we might be earning more interest on it somewhere else, I don't know, that wasn't in the report, or that we might want to use that money for something else rather than put it in there. There's no sort of discussion of the advantage of paying it out versus keeping it going at 1.75.
Your Worship, I would suggest if that's what council wants to refer back to Lois and ask her for more details.
Well, I was just, do you have any idea?
I'm not
Oh, you're
sure.
not
To me, it would
Okay.
just basically be the interest payments versus not having the.
Right.
Yeah, interest payments versus not having interest payments, but you also lose $36,000 that you could be doing something else with, right?
Well, let's,
I would suggest
can I
the
jump in?
investment rate will not be as much as the loan rate.
Yeah.
Councillor
or if there's
Fisher.
something else we want to do with the money.
I just jump in quickly. So if you look at it as opportunity cost, you look at it in a different way. Say we have pipes in the ground that need to be fixed, and we take the $36,000 and we borrow it for the Golden Bear building. Essentially, we're borrowing it to finance the pipes in the ground. By that logic, like the money could be somewhere else. So if we want to, and we have the capacity to, we could borrow the money to do more of something else. So I don't mind the idea of paying this off now, but then if you want to do something else, go ahead and borrow. It's not like found money.
Right.
It's actually,
Right.
right?
Well, and it also lowers the amount of indebtedness that we
That's right,
have,
yeah.
right? So that's a good
Which
thing. And again, I was
increases-
just saying, it's like we shifted an infrastructure project away from Spokane because we had an emergency in Pinewood, right?
Mhm.
I'm thinking, well, maybe if we just kept paying this incremental amount on this 36,000, we would have had room to do not that project, but something else. So that was just the part I was just interested in, is what are we giving up by doing this? I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm actually, I think it's fine, but I just would have liked to have seen that other piece of the puzzle, right?
Okay. Anything further? No, on the motion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Correspondence from the Rossland Library, a motion that council provides the Rossland Library Board with a letter of support for the library renewal project. Moved by Fisher, seconded by Spearn. Discussion, Councillor Fisher.
No, it was great.
Notice how I sounded like Mayor Boggs there?
No.
Councillor Spearn.
Yeah, no, I think it's exciting. I've been in the library quite a few times in the last few weeks and months, and I'm always in there on and off, but I looked at the drawings again, and yeah, no, it's exciting, and it's busy in there, you know, it's vibrant, and I think it's, they're rebranding themselves, as you saw in that report with all the different names, Literacy Center and all these mod things, not just calling it a library modern. So I think they're really on the right track, and I appreciate their efforts to get that done, so yeah.
Thank you. Further? Okay, on the motion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. That's for letter of support, right? Information items, a motion to receive the information items and act on the recommendations as per, moved by Moore, seconded by Fisher. Discussion, A and B, can't be too many today. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Bylaws.
That'd be a first.
Yeah, a first with 2 meetings to go. Bylaws. Is there a motion that the Monte Cristo Street road closure bylaw be read for the 3rd time? Moved by Spearn, seconded by Thatcher. Discussion, Spearn, Thatcher.
No, we've been through this
Discussed it enough.
a few times.
Okay, so on that motion, all in favor? Opposed, the motion's carried. Thank you very much. Members' reports. Councillor Moore.
Let's see, well, I really enjoyed the beer and ballots event that invited all the candidates to meet with the citizens. I think that went really well. It was good turnout. I think everybody was asking good questions, and it was a pretty interesting evening. That was great. Let's see, what else? Went to the LCCDT meeting, and that was good. They were talking about the community-directed funds, the regional group. I did one of the focus group for that with elected officials that Councillor Spearn was at, and then I went to the public session. There were lots of great ideas. People seemed to be quite engaged about how to spend the money regionally. It was a really interesting exercise we had to think regionally, right? It had to be something big that would benefit everybody. I think that was a really, really good thing. Basically, that's it.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
I'm just looking up a special notice here. I just wanted to say that our we have a local business, the Rossland Beer Company is brand new, and they just recently found out that they won an award. It's the British Columbia Beer Awards 2014, third place for North American ales for their Pay Dirt Pale Ale. And this is a very big deal in the EC craft beer world, and so just a little congrats out to them. Also, I'll just, hesitant if I should do this, but just publicly state, I guess, that I have, while working on this council, definitely on several occasions brought up ideas that, you know, might have been new to others on council, or just, you know, and sometimes that, when I bring it up to our mayor, for example, he is, you know, even if off the hop he thinks, idea, eh? But he's always been very open to facilitating my ability to bring it up to the rest of council and to the community. And anyway, I'm grateful for that level of support, and not personal support, but support in my ideas when they need to come up. And yeah, I think that was the most important point.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Thatcher?
Just a reminder that the new museum manager is starting November 3rd, and I think Libby's going to be bringing her around to the new council, I guess, anyhow, to introduce her to everybody. So give her a warm welcome. As I see the health care or the Rotary buildings for sale now. What was he asking? What were we? 120. And it been any interest in it at all so far? Or?
I went up today.
Yeah.
From what I
Oh, okay. So I just seen it, so I didn't know when it was up. So no, I did. I seen it was up. So okay. That's about it. Just
Good?
She's a hockey player.
a hockey player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stick out pretty good.
The museum,
Oh, sure.
curator or whatever.
What?
Yeah,
Is
she's
she?
a hockey player. Yeah.
Oh, right on.
Trying to recruit her already.
Oh, good.
Oh, the new museum
Yeah.
manager, I was going from the Rotary building.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Sorry,
gonna
I was
do.
trying to make the connection, but
I'm gonna put a rink in there. Anyway, Councilor Spear, members report.
yeah, just briefly, yes, also, I attended the LCCDP meeting for spending that $600,000 over the next 3 years, for the elected officials, and frankly, it wasn't very well attended by elected officials, but there were some of us there, and Councilor Moore and I were there, as she said, and there were a few other representatives. So it was interesting, because you had to really focus, you had to be engaged around that board table, and it did, you know, it forced us, actually, the best part of it all was having kind of a regional conversation, and that you could just feel that people are talking more and more, whether it was, you know, Mayor from Montrose Joe, or even Dieter Boggs across from me, and, you know, we were kind of, you know, agreeing on some things, you know, regionally, and I think that's the best and most exciting part about, part of, you know, this process, particular process, is that amongst, you know, sewer pipes getting approved and all of that, is that I think we are moving to at least having conversations in a better way regionally, so that's exciting. And I went to the walking tour, Jackie's Heritage Commission, Councilor Moore was there also, on Columbia Cemetery, week before last, and took the tour, and it was fabulous, and learned a lot about Rossland history and the connections to, you know, the way that the town site is laid out, and the restoration of the tombs and the headstones, and the ones that can't be identified, and sort of the mystery around, you know, that cemetery.
Yep.
And the history of Rossland. It was really great. It was a beautiful day, and it was really well attended, so that was neat and educational. And I also went to Beers and Ballads night, and yes, it was a fine format. I don't think there was the greatest cross-selection of people from the community, but nonetheless, there were people there. And, you know, you sat for 3.5 hours and talked a lot and asked a lot of hard questions, but it was a good exercise, and, yeah, everybody remained pretty pleasant anyway. And Beers and Ballads, and just, yeah, officially announcing my candidacy for mayor of Rossland for the next term. So, yeah, here I am.
We're gonna rent out that camera later on.
Yeah, that's right.
Great, I forgot to mention one thing. Quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I sent an email around asking just for a little update on broadband because of that
Oh, yeah.
article I read in the Nelson Star about CBT asking communities, so is there anything we need to do about that to?
That's for, that grant is
Active.
for ISP providers, and the reason that we are where we are with broadband is no one wants to commit to being an ISP. So the reason they're looking for grants is so that we can get an ISP provider, in order that we can get costs, in order that we can move forward if we're going to move forward. So those grants are for ISP providers. If you're thinking that the city becomes an ISP provider, that requires a whole bunch more effort. But those grants were specifically for ISP providers, so that they can convince someone in that field to be the ISP provider for broadband.
Okay, yeah, I think Trail has signed somebody up.
They did it on their own.
Yeah, okay.
This is through Columbia
Okay,
Basin
so
Broadband.
I just, because our situation seems so sort of unsettled in terms of what we are doing, because I know at one point CBBC was saying, well, you could be the ISP if you wanted to be, or you wouldn't be, we could, or you might, or all that. So I just wanted to make sure that we don't miss any opportunity if there's one there. But you feel
I don't
comfortable
believe we
with-
are missing one.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just, I'll just end, I have a couple of very important meetings next week, none of, least of which is a public forum. But we have a East End Sewer meeting and the East End Services meeting, and at that services meeting is on Wednesday the 5th, and that's when we'll be discussing the LCIC and makeup. So, saying that,
Sorry, can
Yeah.
I just, so I've been, part of a few discussions about the upcoming elections, of course, and, you know, with people deciding how they're going to be making a decision, I guess. And it's been very interesting, to find out that public perception of what goes on in council and amongst us and between us and City Hall and whatnot, it's really quite different from my first-hand experience of it. And I guess for one thing, I'm just remarking that there is quite a disconnect between some of the two situations, and also how we work together. You know, I mean, I feel like definitely in any situation with any individual or you know, individual councillor here and mayor, we always seem to have complete conversations, I guess. I mean, I've never felt that any member here was withholding information or that was, you know, keeping information for another opportunity that I wouldn't get, or, you know, there's none of that I've actually experienced. And there's also just points of view as to even numbers that about, you know, expenditures that are on the public record, but they are spoken about generally in town as being quite different from what they actually are. And so, I don't know, I guess I'm just putting it out there that there must be some way that that bridge can be a bit better built. And I'm not really sure what the answer to that is, but I guess it's just maybe bringing up again the issue of communication, although I can't say that I have a solution at all whatsoever. I think maybe part of it, though, is that we're responsible individually for the communications that we put out there in the community. As best I can say.
and I think that'll be for the next group to figure out if they want to spend more or do more or whatever. I think that is a valid point.
Can I
And I
make a
don't think
comment along those lines?
we're not going to debate that, though.
No,
No,
this isn't a
it's okay.
debate, but this, I think this is fairly amusing when you talk about things that you see as a perception that it wasn't your perception and it's out in the town. For me, what I've heard out in the town is that I'm not a citizen, I come to 50% of the meetings, I call in on phone all the time, you know this. So it's like, I know I went to 97% of the meetings, I know
Okay,
I
Counselor.
missed 4 and was there on the phone. So I was just saying that with the word that gets out there goes around in all kinds of circles, and we can't always control that. The only thing we can do is say how it really was, and then that, you know, that's all we can do.
Okay,
That's right.
you got your shot in.
No,
Thank you very much.
but you know, I think it's interesting.
No, it's interesting, okay. Yes, please.
Well, you know, you know, this feels like a campaign thing, but,
Exactly.
and it's not appropriate, but, whatever, you know, my experience of 9 years here and longer, much longer in the community is that, yes, you know, people, you know, talk, and it's just like that game of telephone where somebody says something, by the time it gets down to the end, it's totally different, it's wrong, it's, you know, it's miscommunicated, et cetera. I think our job, well, I know what my job is in the community, and that's to be honest and not make up stories, and I never have made up stories to make somebody else look bad. And I think maybe Jody's saying that is that, you know, what we do here, and I've even said it in some of the interviews that I've had, is that what we do here, there's a lot of great things going on. And that the debates and the conversations have been worthwhile and sincere and genuine in most cases, right? And in all cases in my mind. And it's unfortunate that some of those things that went a bit sideways seems to be more of the conversations than not. And you know what, I personally have risen above it and looking forward to the next 4 years, if that is to be, and making sure that we do our job as well as we can to communicate to the public in many ways.
Thank you very much, and that was equal time.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. A motion to adjourn, moved by Fisher. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Shortest record of the entire 3 years.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Wow, it's incredible.
Yeah, beautiful thing.
Sarah can't believe it.